In this video, we are going to look at the 8 most common signs that can help you identify those dynamics that, although at first feel like love, actually hide manipulation, control, and silent emotional exhaustion, all before they completely trap you. If you have ever wondered how to recognize a person with narcissistic personality disorder, this video will open your eyes. Some of these signs may seem subtle, almost invisible at first, but they all leave a deep mark. And if you have ever felt that someone admired you only to later make you doubt yourself, stay tuned, because this is for you. Also, at the end of the video, I will share 7 key strategies that can help you get out of this maze of manipulation and abuse, and begin to rebuild your inner peace from within. When someone tries to make you feel guilty for what you feel, how you react, or for setting boundaries, they are not taking care of you. They are trying to control you. This type of dynamic infiltrates many relationships without us realizing it. It is more common than we imagine. Bonds where, instead of support, there is emotional pressure disguised as concern. That is why it is so important to learn to distinguish what is respect from what is manipulation. Respect is noticeable when someone listens to you sincerely, validates you, and is interested in understanding you without demands. On the other hand, when guilt appears as a way to influence what you do or feel, you are facing a clear sign of manipulation, and you should not lose sight of it. If you find yourself justifying everything you feel, if you think twice before speaking for fear of an exaggerated reaction, or if you even start doubting your own emotions and perceptions, it is time to pay attention. These are symptoms of a relationship that is no longer emotionally safe. In a healthy bond, differences are not frightening, but open the door to mutual growth. But in a toxic dynamic, every disagreement becomes a weapon to discredit you, make you feel guilty, or question your reality. Little by little, you stop trusting yourself and begin to walk on emotional ground that always trembles beneath your feet. The most disconcerting thing is that the first signs often seem like love. It all starts like a perfect story, constant attention, kind words, intense gestures that make you feel unique. The connection is quick and deep, as if you had finally found someone who completely understands you. They shower you with attention, compliments, and admiration that lifts you up. But that intensity is not always what it seems. Sometimes it is just the bait of a trap that is about to close, because when that magical stage passes, another face begins to show. Subtle criticism, coldness disguised as frankness, words that once caressed now hurt. And there, right there, true manipulation begins. The person who once idealized you starts to slowly dismantle you, making you feel small, guilty, or emotionally responsible for everything. If this resonates with you, if a part of you feels that something doesn't fit, listen to that voice. Don't silence it. Don't rationalize it. That discomfort that arises is your internal compass warning you that something is wrong, and it deserves all your attention. Now then, what lies behind these dynamics? It's not simply about someone egocentric or conceited. We are talking about a real psychological disorder, where the need for admiration is constant, empathy is noticeably absent, and relationships are used as means to obtain validation. In a romantic relationship, this can be devastating. These people often build a charming image on the outside, even altruistic, but what they hide is a fragile structure that needs to dominate to sustain itself. Intimacy is experienced through control, not love. That is why identifying these signs in time is not an exaggeration. It is a way to choose yourself again and leave relationships that extinguish you. Because healing is not weakness. It is reigniting your life. So, let's start looking at the signs that your partner might have narcissistic personality disorder. 1. Total lack of empathy. One of the most obvious signs of a person with narcissistic personality disorder is their complete inability to emotionally connect with you. If your partner seems indifferent to your pain, if they show no compassion for your emotions, it's time to pay attention. When you feel sad, anxious, or hurt, instead of comfort, you receive impatience, disdain, or even irritation. They may consider your feelings a nuisance or a weakness that shouldn't exist. Instead of emotionally supporting you, they make you feel like you're exaggerating, like the problem isn't real, or worse, like you are the problem for not getting over it faster. When you try to open up and talk about what hurts you, their response is usually distant, evasive, or frankly annoyed. They change the subject, minimize what you feel, and turn the conversation back to themselves. It's as if every minute you occupy the center of the conversation is a loss of spotlight for them. This is not an isolated behavior. It's a pattern. A pattern where vulnerability is punished, where showing sadness or need is an excuse to ridicule or invalidate you. If you dare to show fragility, you might be labeled as exaggerated, weak, or emotionally unstable. And the most damaging part, they rarely apologize. There is never a sorry, only excuses, minimization, and sometimes they even make you feel like you are to blame for their lack of empathy. Thus, your emotions stop being important. They become a nuisance, a threat to their control. And little by little, you begin to fade away. Over time, this emotional indifference becomes such a heavy burden that it starts to sink you. You wonder if asking for support is too much, if expressing what you feel is selfish or immature. Without realizing it, you begin to suppress what you really need for fear of making things worse. You stop talking, sharing, asking. You keep everything to avoid conflicts, to not seem weak. But that doesn't protect you. It slowly destroys you. Your self-esteem erodes. You feel like your emotions don't matter, that you are alone within a relationship that should support you. Because this coldness is not accidental. It is part of a strategy aimed at disorienting you, destabilizing you, and keeping emotional power in the hands of the narcissist. They want you to believe it's just a bad moment, that deep down they do care. But the truth is that empathy is not part of their way of relating. That constant coldness is their form of control. Why are you still trapped in this dynamic? Because you still hope that one day they will change, that if you do things better, he or she will finally understand how you feel. But that understanding rarely comes. Instead of validating you, your pain becomes just another tool in their control game. And little by little, without realizing it, you adapt, you silence yourself, you lose yourself. You know it. This is not a healthy relationship, but you keep hoping that the small good part that appears from time to time is the real one. And that is what traps you the most. 2. Manipulation and gaslighting. A narcissistic person masters the art of emotional manipulation. They play with your mind, distort reality, and do it in such a subtle way that you don't even realize what is happening until you are already immersed in confusion. They alternate between moments of affection and moments of total coldness without warning. This emotionally unsettles you and makes you enter a cycle of dependence. You begin to doubt yourself, your judgment, your ability to see things clearly. They make you believe that you are exaggerating, misinterpreting, or remembering things wrong. They say things like, "That never happened," or "You're making it up." This technique is called gaslighting, and it is one of the most destructive forms of psychological abuse. Over time, the constant distortion makes you doubt yourself. Your confidence fades, your inner voice weakens. And the most dangerous part, you start to depend on him or her to know what is real and what is not. That is the perfect ground for the narcissist to maintain control. 3. Infinite need for admiration. In this type of relationship, everything revolves around one person, the narcissist. Their need for recognition is insatiable. If you don't constantly praise them, if you don't give them the attention they believe they deserve, they will emotionally withdraw, punishing you with contempt, coldness, or complete indifference. They need to be fed admiration all the time, whether through work, social media, or their intimate life. And if you, as their partner, stop being that unconditional source of applause and validation, they will seek that energy elsewhere. Sometimes they do this through infidelity, other times simply by opening new channels of external attention. The worst part, they do it without remorse, without guilt, because in their mind, they have the right to receive constant attention. For them, that is not betrayal. It is a need. 4. Devaluation and emotional abuse. The narcissist's emotional roller coaster begins with idealization. They praise you, exalt you, make you feel unique. But then, without warning, the fall comes. They start criticizing you for what they once admired. They ridicule you, compare you, make you feel inadequate. They attack your vulnerable points with surgical precision. And not only that, they also seek to isolate you, speak ill of the people around you, cast doubt on your relationships with others. Also that you depend solely on them. And when you are most broken, they throw you a small dose of affection, as if that were enough to heal all the wounds they just caused. That's how they keep you hooked. That's how they control you. And if you ever try to set boundaries, respond, leave. They come back with empty promises, calculated gestures, tears that don't come from the heart, but from the fear of losing power over you. 5. They never takes the blame. You will always be the guilty one. In the narcissist's universe, guilt does not exist. At least not for him. If something goes wrong, if there is a conflict, if you feel hurt, he will always find a way to make you the one responsible. Even if the mistake is obvious, even if the damage is right in front of his eyes, he will always manage to place himself in the victim role and leave you as the villain of the story. During an argument, you will never hear a sincere apology. Saying sorry would mean admitting he is not perfect, and his ego cannot handle that. His self-esteem is so fragile that any sign of error would make it collapse. That is why, when you confront him, he deploys an arsenal of evasive tactics. He changes the subject, minimizes the problem, or throws something you did in the past in your face to divert attention. Even if you have clear evidence, recordings, messages, witnesses, he will find an excuse to justify his actions. He will tell you that you provoked him, that he reacted because you left him no other choice, that if you hadn't done that, he wouldn't have reacted that way. This way, he not only avoids guilt, but also transfers it to you. He makes you doubt yourself, fills you with confusion. You start to think that maybe you were at fault, that you exaggerated, that you should have acted differently, and that's where the emotional trap begins. Not only does he shirk his mistakes, but he also plays the victim. He will tell you that you attack him, that you don't understand him, that you don't appreciate everything he does. That phrase, "You don't appreciate what I do," is his wild card to nullify any criticism and make himself look like the injured party again. Little by little, this dynamic leaves you exhausted. You spend more time explaining yourself than being heard, more time justifying yourself than being understood. And before you realize it, you are trapped in a cycle where you are always wrong, and he never takes responsibility. The most serious aspect of this pattern is that, if you're not aware of what is happening, you can end up believing it. You assume guilt that is not yours. You try harder to fix what you cannot change. And while you wear yourself out, he reinforces his role as the innocent one. This constant denial of responsibility can destroy your self-esteem without you noticing. It makes you feel that everything is wrong with you, when in reality, the toxic thing is the dynamic he has imposed. And if you don't manage to break that cycle, you can completely lose your sense of identity. 6. Uncontrolled competitiveness, a battle you can never win. The narcissist cannot simply coexist with you. They need to surpass you. They are not satisfied with shining. They need you to dim so they can stand out more. In any area, whether work, friends, family, or even emotionally, they will always want to be above. They need to prove they are better, stronger, more admired. They don't seek to share. They seek to dominate. If you achieve something important, if you receive congratulations or celebrate a personal goal, their reaction will not be joy. It will be discomfort. They will try to devalue what you did, minimize it, take credit for it, or simply ignore it. Your achievements are a threat to their false image of superiority. They cannot stand you shining, because that forces them to confront their insecurity. And that's why they will attack your confidence with subtle phrases, comparisons, comments that seem innocent, but are designed to make you feel it wasn't a big deal. Sometimes they will even remind you of your mistakes, your past failures, so you don't feel too good about yourself. But the competition doesn't end there. Even in everyday situations, they will try to prove they know more, can do more, are worth more. If someone praises you, they will intervene to redirect the attention. If you are going through something difficult, they will say theirs is worse. Everything has to revolve around their narrative. This constant competition is not just about ego, it is a form of control. If you always feel inferior, they maintain the power. And although at first this dynamic may seem like a harmless competitive trait, over time it becomes an emotional trap. You find yourself trying to impress someone who is never satisfied, who always finds a but in your victories. Your self-esteem wears down because no matter how hard you try, nothing is enough. You are in a race with no finish line, a struggle designed so you never win. And along the way, you lose the value you see in yourself. 7. They will cross all your boundaries, the disregard for your needs. For a narcissist, boundaries do not exist. They do not understand that saying no is an expression of respect. They cannot conceive that you might need space, silence, or simply not be available. They feel they have absolute rights over your time, your body, your emotions, and your decisions. They believe they can have an opinion about what you do, what you feel, and even what you think. And if you dare to set a boundary, they will take it as a threat to their control. They will constantly test your boundaries. They will insist, pressure you, ignore what you asked for. They will talk about topics that make you uncomfortable, even if you told them not to, invade your physical or emotional space, mock your personal decisions. For them, boundaries are an obstacle to be broken. Every time you give in, even a little, they interpret it as a sign that they can go further, and that's how the wear begins. You stop saying what you think to avoid conflicts. You give ground to avoid fighting. You end up doing things you don't want to do, accepting situations that hurt you because you convince yourself it's easier to give up than to resist. But every time you allow them to cross a line, they take a little more of you. Until one day, you no longer know where your own boundaries are. You no longer know how to protect yourself. You no longer know who you were before allowing so much. The worst part is that they do it on purpose. They don't respect your boundaries because by breaking them, they reaffirm their power. And while you feel weaker, they feel stronger. It's a way of dominating you without shouting, without touching you, just eroding your ability to say enough. 8. They can be aggressive. The violence of a narcissist in all its forms. One of the most dangerous signs in a relationship with a narcissist is their tendency to react with aggression when they feel they are losing control. This aggression can be direct, with shouting, insults, or pushing, but it can also be silent, psychological, insidious. Because the violence of a narcissist does not always leave visible bruises, sometimes it appears in the form of mockery, contempt, emotional punishments, or silences that punish more than any word. At first, these aggressions are disguised. They appear as hurtful jokes, as criticisms for your own good, as emotional demands that make you feel responsible for their happiness. But little by little, what seemed like control turns into abuse. Every disagreement becomes an explosion. Every boundary you set becomes a threat. And if you dare to confront it, it can become even more cruel. Or worse, they play the victim to make you feel guilty. They can also attack from other fronts. They may socially isolate you, discredit you with your friends or family, sabotage your work, or control your money, all under the excuse of love, all while telling you they do it because they care about you. But the truth is, they don't do it out of love. They do it for power. And if you reach the point of being afraid, if you find yourself measuring every word for fear of their reaction, then you have already crossed a dangerous line. A relationship should never be lived in fear. Never. If you feel trapped, if you can no longer express yourself without thinking about repercussions, it's time to prioritize your safety. Because the narcissist is not going to change, but you can leave. But the truth that they haven't told you, do narcissists suffer? Beneath that confident, arrogant, or controlling appearance, narcissists carry a difficult truth. Yes, they suffer. And they suffer much more than they seem to show. Although their behavior projects confidence, what really lies behind is a deep emotional void, built on unhealed wounds. Many narcissists grew up in extreme environments. Either they were overvalued, made to believe they were perfect, or they were completely ignored. leaving them with a constant feeling of not being loved or seen. From childhood, they experienced family dynamics marked by emotional dysfunction. When they were the perfect child, an impossible level of perfection was demanded of them, and when they failed to meet it, they received disapproval. When they were ignored, they simply learned that they didn't matter. Both experiences leave marks. The narcissist then builds an emotional armor, a mask of self-sufficiency, of superiority, that helps them survive, but disconnects them from their own inner world. The paradox of narcissism is that the more confident they appear, the more insecure they are inside. Their desperate need for admiration is a way to cover up the fear of being worthless. They need praise, recognition, constant attention, because without it, they feel like they collapse. They cannot tolerate feeling vulnerable, so they choose to dominate, control, manipulate. It is their way of protecting themselves. Constantly comparing themselves to others, they seek to keep alive the illusion that they are better, because facing their inner emptiness would be unbearable. But that arrogant facade is just that, a facade. Behind it, there is a deep fear of rejection, abandonment, of not being enough. They do not admit mistakes, do not apologize, do not open up emotionally, because if they did, they would touch that wound they have hidden since childhood. Their inner world is a constant tension, and although they seem to be in control, they are actually trapped in a cycle of silent pain they do not know how to break. The saddest thing is that they rarely can express that suffering in a healthy way. They do not allow themselves to acknowledge their pain, because doing so would force them to face that emotional abandonment they experienced as children. So, instead of healing, they project their discomfort onto others. They transform it into criticism, manipulation, attacks, and you, who are close, become the target. You are no longer a human being. You are the container of their anguish, the mirror in which they project everything they cannot bear about themselves. Now, understanding their pain does not mean justifying yours. You can feel compassion for their wounds without allowing them to destroy you. Having had a difficult childhood does not mean you must sacrifice your emotional health. You are not responsible for their healing. They must choose to heal themselves, and most do not. Changing would mean accepting that they are not perfect, and for many narcissists that is unacceptable. Transformation only happens when there is a sincere willingness to change, and that is not in your hands. You cannot save a narcissist. You can understand them, even love them, but you cannot carry the weight of their story. If they are not willing to look inward and work on their wounds, the healthiest thing you can do is walk away. Because no matter how much you want to help, if they do not take responsibility, the only thing you will achieve is sinking yourself as well. So, let's see, how can you protect yourself from a narcissistic partner? If you are in a relationship with a narcissist, protecting yourself is not optional. It is vital. Here I share some key points to help you regain your emotional balance and break free from this cycle of manipulation and abuse. 1. Trust your intuition. If something bothers you, if there is an inner voice telling you that something is not right, listen to it. Your intuition is a wise alert. Do not ignore it. Do not justify it. 2. Do not justify their actions. Love does not hurt. You don't have to justify manipulation or disrespect. If a relationship wears you down more than it nourishes you, something is wrong. 3. Seek support. Talk to someone. A therapist, a friend, someone you trust. Narcissists try to isolate you to have control. Break that isolation and open yourself to another perspective. 4. Set clear boundaries. And keep them. Learn to say no. You don't have to justify it. You have the right to protect your well-being, your energy, and your emotional space. Recognizing your own limits is a form of self-protection that you should not sacrifice. 5. Don't try to change them. Don't fall into the trap of believing that if you love enough, they will change. Change only happens if they truly want it, and many times, it doesn't. 6. Prepare a safe exit. If the relationship has become destructive, have a plan. Emotional, financial, physical. Knowing how to leave gives you back power, You don't need to run away without direction, but you do need to be ready when the time comes. 7. Choose to be with people who value you. Rebuilding your self-esteem is essential. Seek relationships that nourish you, people who respect you, who see you and love you for who you are. Leaving a relationship with a narcissist can be terrifying, but it is also the first step toward freedom. Self-love is not about enduring more, but about saying enough. You deserve a relationship that helps you grow as a person, not one that extinguishes you. You deserve respect, care, and emotional truth. The path may be hard, but on the other side is your peace, your clarity, and your healing. Thank you for being here at Jung and You Psychology for Change, for giving yourself this space and allowing yourself to understand, grow, and be. If this content has resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and share it if you think it can help someone who needs it. Because here we continue exploring together what transforms us. See you in the next video. Until then, take good care of yourself.